Have you ever wondered how a single, silent look can unravel the dark truth? Imagine sitting in a courtroom at just 5 years old, facing the person who took your voice, surrounded by intimidating figures, knowing that no one can speak up for you, except for one silent ally, a dog. This is the story of a little girl, her loyal dog, and how they exposed a predator hiding in plain sight. But this wasn't just about saving a child, it was about justice that wasn't won by words, but by instinct. The air inside the Fairhaven courtroom was thick with tension, each person holding their breath as the tiny figure of Amelia Brooks, barely 5 years old, stepped forward. In her hand, she gripped the leash of Ace, a German shepherd with a long scar running down his side, a mark of battles fought and victories won. But this was no ordinary courtroom, and Ace was no ordinary dog. Standing beside Amelia was her protector, a dog trained to read the smallest signs of danger. To the people watching, Ace was a hero without words. As Amelia walked in, her small figure dwarfed by the enormity of the courtroom, the energy shifted. Ace's presence was commanding. The tension was palpable, and when Amelia's tiny hand gave the slightest signal, Ace responded. Not with a bark, but with a growl so deep, so foreboding, it froze the courtroom in its tracks. Jacob Harrison, the man seated at the defendant's table, was the focus of Ace's gaze, and in that instant, everything changed. Ace recognized him. The court was about to witness a dramatic turn, a moment of truth exposed not by words, but by instinct. Jacob Harrison sat there, calm and composed, the perfect image of a man who had control. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. His hands were clenched, his posture rigid, and his gaze flickered just once toward Amelia, his expression faltering. He couldn't hide it. Ace had seen something that everyone else missed. In that split second, Ace knew exactly who this man was, and that was enough to make the courtroom hold its collective breath. The judge, Nathaniel Morgan, had seen it all, liars, criminals, and victims. But this was something entirely different. This wasn't just a case of kidnapping. It was a battle between silence and truth, and it was about to explode. What makes this case so compelling is not just the courtroom drama, but the way that silence, something we often see as weakness, was actually the strength that turned the tide. In a world where words are supposed to have all the power, it was a child's silence and a dog's instinct that revealed the predator lurking in the shadows. It speaks to the power of nonverbal communication, how sometimes the things we don't say can speak the loudest. And when we have the courage to act on those silent cues, we often discover truths that words cannot express. But even the sharpest eyes couldn't prepare for what happened next. A small signal from Amelia, a simple flick of her hand, and Ace knew what to do. His reaction was instinctive, a silent warning that pierced the tension in the room. No one in that courtroom could deny the power of that moment. The truth was coming, and it wasn't just from the mouths of the witnesses. With Ace standing vigilant at Amelia's side, the room began to shift. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. People were beginning to sense it. Something was not right. Jacob Harrison, despite his calm demeanor, was visibly unsettled. His gaze darted from the judge to Amelia, then back to the German shepherd, whose intense eyes never left him. There was no mistaking it. Ace had recognized Harrison, and that was all it took to spark a change in the courtroom's energy. This moment marked the beginning of a chain reaction, one that was going to unravel everything Harrison had worked so hard to conceal. Amelia, silent and observant, was the key, but it was Ace's growl that became the first piece of evidence, louder than any testimony. As the defense attorney, Elijah Cooper, rose to speak, the courtroom held its breath. His calm, rehearsed voice tried to reassure everyone. My client, a model citizen, has been accused solely based on the word of a 5-year-old child who hasn't spoken a single word since the alleged incident. Cooper's voice echoed through the room, but the words didn't have the same weight anymore. The room was no longer simply about a child's silence. It was about the silence being shattered by a dog's instinct, revealing a much darker truth. Jenna Collins, the prosecutor, stood up to cross-examine Amelia, her soft but sharp tone piercing the room. Amelia, she asked. "Can you show everyone who made you afraid that day?" A hush fell over the room as the little girl sat, still as stone, her tiny hand wrapped tightly around the leash. And then, the room fell into total silence when Amelia made her move. With one small, barely perceptible motion, Amelia's hand curled, her signal clear to Ace. The German shepherd immediately tensed, his posture straightened, his ears alert. The shift in the dog's stance wasn't subtle. It was a sharp, deliberate movement. A low growl rumbled through the room, a sound that reverberated in everyone's chest. Jacob Harrison flinched. This wasn't just a dog's growl. This was a warning. In that moment, Ace had confirmed something the courtroom had suspected all along. The predator was sitting right there in front of them. Ace didn't need words to speak the truth, and Amelia didn't need to say a thing. The dog had done what no human could. It exposed the hidden truth that Harrison had spent months trying to suppress. As the prosecutor continued, the courtroom began to come to a grim realization. This was no longer a case about hearsay or speculation. This was a case about truth, revealed through the silent instincts of a dog and a small girl who had been silenced by fear but was now ready to find her voice. The most crucial moment came when Special Agent Jonathan Hayes and his team of investigators pieced together the disturbing pattern of abductions. They had seen the familiar signs. A predator who studied his victims, who didn't use force, but used his charm and careful words to manipulate children into trusting him. When they found Amelia, it was too late. He had almost succeeded, but now, thanks to Ace, they had their one chance to catch him before he disappeared again. Ace's past, his scars, his loyalty, and his sharp instincts had brought him to this moment. The once vibrant K-9 warrior who had been deemed unfit for duty after an injury was now not only saving lives, but also playing a pivotal role in justice. What had been discarded as a weakness was now his greatest strength. And then, when the investigators discovered the place where the missing children had been kept, the connection became undeniable. The footprints, one large, one small, led them straight to the predator's den. The moment they found Natalie Dawson, who had been missing for months, it became clear. Ace wasn't just a dog. He was a crucial part of the team that would stop a monster from taking any more innocent lives. The atmosphere in the courtroom was a mixture of anger, disbelief, and, surprisingly, relief. The judge, Nathaniel Morgan, had listened as the evidence mounted. The body cam footage, the testimony, the photographs, and Ace's unmistakable reaction. All of it pointed to the same chilling conclusion. Jacob Harrison was not a model citizen, not even close. He was a predator who had been operating in plain sight for too long. And now, thanks to Amelia and Ace, the truth was undeniable. Judge Morgan's gavel struck the wooden bench, echoing through the courtroom like a thunderclap. Jacob Harrison is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, he declared. The words rang in the room, but the true victory wasn't in the sentence. It was in what had led to that moment. The truth had finally come to light, and it wasn't because of a dramatic confession or an overwhelming pile of physical evidence, but because of a small, brave girl, her loyal dog, and their courage to stand up against a system built on silence and fear. The courtroom began to clear, but the feeling in the air lingered. Justice had been served, but it was the human connections. Ace's bond with Amelia, the courage of the prosecutor, the patience of the judge, that truly made the difference. It was a lesson in resilience, in the power of second chances, and in the fact that sometimes silence speaks louder than any words. For Amelia, the victory didn't come with a loud celebration. Instead, it was in the quiet moment that followed. A small step forward, a hand placed gently on Ace's face, and 3 simple words, "Thank you, Ace." Those words carried the weight of everything Amelia had been through. They were a promise to herself, a promise that no matter how dark the world had been, she had found her voice again. This story, while emotionally charged and packed with moments of intense drama, is also about the strength that comes from silence, from patience, and from trusting those who are truly there for you. It's a testament to the idea that sometimes we can't fix everything with words. Sometimes we need to listen, observe, and trust in the connections that go beyond speech. Silence is not weakness. Amelia's silence wasn't a sign of fear. it was a sign of strength. Her silence was her way of coping, and in the end, it was through her silence that Ace knew what needed to be done. The power of second chances. Ace may have been sidelined from the K-9 unit, but that didn't mean his purpose was over. Sometimes, our past failures aren't the end. They can be the beginning of something even greater. The truth always surfaces. No matter how hard we try to hide it, the truth has a way of coming out. And when it does, there's no escaping its power. If you were moved by this story, don't just scroll past, share it. Like, comment, and subscribe for more life-changing stories that teach us about the power of truth, resilience, and second chances. This story is proof that sometimes the smallest acts of courage can change everything. You never know who you might help by sharing these truths.